In this video, I will be exploring interval questions from Grade 5 of the Associated Board Music Theory syllabus. This video is therefore suitable for students studying Grade 5 theory, or those wishing to gain further knowledge on the use of compound intervals. I will be expanding on some of the concepts I discussed in parts 2 and 3 of this series of videos, so if you need to, please have a look at those videos first. If you're competent at calculating intervals for Grade 4, then there is, you'll be pleased to know, only a very small change at Grade 5. That is the use of compound intervals. Effectively, this means an interval which is larger than an octave, but at Grade 5 the interval will not exceed 2 octaves. Okay, here's an interval which you may come across at Grade 5. As in all intervals, you work out the number first. But at Grade 5 you're allowed two options on how you refer to the number of an interval if it is over an octave. And in this example you could choose either a tenth or a compound third. In this video I'm going to concentrate on the compound interval solution, as most of my students have found this the most straightforward and clear way to calculate an interval. Now, I don't doubt that several experienced musicians watching this video will be up in arms about this, and I'm really sorry if you disagree, but the compound solution is just as correct as the non-compound route. But if you don't know the difference, then you've got absolutely nothing to worry about. Okay, so let's work out this interval. The first thing to notice is that the interval is larger than an octave. The word compound, when dealing with intervals, means more than an octave. So when we write the word compound down, we're effectively saying that we've calculated that part, the octave part of the interval. So we move the bottom note up an octave. So here's the bottom F. Once I write compound, I can move the note up an octave, which I've highlighted red, and I've left the bottom note in some brackets just to remind us of our original starting point. All we then do is work out the interval from the red note to the top note of our interval in exactly the same way we would at Grade 4. So we work out the number from the F to the A. That's 1, 2, 3. We know that this is a third. Jot this down after the word compound. As ever, we then compare it to a major third in C major. Here's the C on our keyboard. To C sharp is 1 semitone, to D is 2, to D sharp is 3, and to E is 4. Therefore, 4 semitones make up a major third. We then count the semitone distance in our interval. Here's the F. To F sharp is 1, to G is 2, to G sharp is 3, and to A is 4. Therefore, our interval has exactly the same number of semitones as a major third in C major. Exactly the same means that we can also call our interval major. We slot the word major between compound and the number, and this gives us the full and correct name for this interval, a compound major third. The trick at Grade 5 is to always remember to write down the word compound as soon as you notice that the interval is more than an octave, and remember to move that bottom note up 1 octave. Let's try another example. We can see that the interval is greater than an octave, so write down the word compound, and remember to move the bottom note up an octave, and don't forget the accidental, the flat. Let's count the distance between the red note, the note we moved up an octave, and the top note. 1 on the line, 2 in the space, 3, 4, 5. So it's a fifth, jot that down. We now compare our fifth to a perfect fifth from C major. Here's the C on the keyboard. To C sharp is 1 semitone, to D is 2, to D sharp is 3, to E is 4, to F is 5, to F sharp is 6, and to G is 7. Therefore, 7 semitones make up a perfect fifth. Let's look at our interval and note that the top note is F sharp, not an F, due to the key signature. Here's the B flat on the keyboard. To B is 1, to C is 2, to C sharp is 3, D is 4, D sharp is 5, E is 6, F is 7, and F sharp is 8. Therefore, our interval is 1 semitone larger than a perfect fifth. Let's remind ourselves of the interval name rules. When a perfect interval is made 1 semitone larger, it becomes an augmented interval. Write this down. And here's the full name of our interval, a compound augmented fifth. One thing to be careful with intervals is that you might get asked an interval from the middle of a bar in a piece of music. You must always watch out for accidentals and the key signature to ensure that you're calculating to and from the correct notes. Look at this. The exam board may ask you to calculate the interval between note 1 and note 2. What notes are they? Note 1 is G sharp due to the earlier accidental in the bar, and note 2 is a B flat due to the key signature. Always be on the lookout if you get a question like this. One final example. Note the key signature. The bottom note is G sharp, not G natural. We can see it's over an octave. So write down compound and move the bottom note up an octave. Let's count the interval between the red note and the top note. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a fourth. Jot that down. We now compare our interval to a perfect fourth from C major. Here's the C on the keyboard. To C sharp is 1 semitone. To D is 2. D sharp is 3. E is 4. To F is 5. Therefore, 5 semitones equal a perfect fourth. Let's look at our interval, and remember to start on the G sharp. We've moved the note up an octave, but the key signature still remains. So here's the G sharp on the keyboard. To A is 1, A sharp is 2, to B is 3, to C is 4. Our interval is 1 semitone smaller than a perfect interval. Here are the rules. Perfect, 1 semitone smaller than perfect equals diminished. Jot this down. So here's the full name of our interval, a compound diminished fourth. I hope that this series of videos has been useful to you. Please feel free to send me comments on what other music theory videos you'd like to see, and I'll be sure to add these to my list of future music theory videos. In the meantime, thanks for watching.